But I think we've developed this culture of workaholism. It's like workaholism is now the respected addiction. If you don't take the vacation time that you're entitled to, somehow you're a more superior entrepreneur or professional. And like, I think that's bullshit.
Hey, Warners, welcome to Women Your Mother Warned You About,
the podcast that makes everything sexy again.
I'm Gina Tremarco, sales trainer and consultant at Pivot 10 Results and founder of Carolina Improv, the #1 nightlife attraction in Myrtle Beach on TripAdvisor since 2010.
And I'm Rachel Pitts. I'm a mom, a wifey, and I am a realtor with BRG turned loan officer with U.S. Mortgage. Gina, looking good in red.
You're looking good in red.
Coincidence? I think not.
I think not. It's either red or it's black.
Amen.
We're silly like that. Hey, I'm super excited. You know how sometimes we have these shows and we're like, we don't really know the guest that well ahead of time. And this was one of those that someone pitched our guest to us and we didn't really know who she was. But they had found our show. And I was like, well, she seems good. She seems cool. She's got a huge social media following. We'll take her. We'll see how it goes. And then boom,
Truth bomb hits.
So much great stuff. Didn't you think?
I thought so. I think, like I said, when we got off with her, I was like, there's a lot more to this lady than I even anticipated. You know, she just kind of has a law firm as her law firm sounds like it's her side project now because her passion project is obviously the vacation effect, which she talks about in the podcast.
She's got the vacation effect. She's got a law firm. She's got a real estate. I was like, and she does it all under 40 hours a week. That just gave me the inspiration for when I'm like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So our guest today, let's talk a little bit about our guest. And I pulled some of this from our website because I thought it was really powerful. Imagine if the best way to grow your business faster by actually working less. And imagine if you could spend each day doing the things you love and have more free time and joy than ever before. We don't have to imagine that anymore because today's guest, Denise Gosnell, founder of The Vacation Effect, is going to share some strategies for how to grow your business by subtracting, not adding more from your to-do list. I don't know about you, Rachel, but I would really like to subtract, right?
For show.
She's also an internationally recognized author, speaker, coach, attorney, and entrepreneur. As a 7-figure entrepreneur running 3 businesses while being a mom and a wifey, Denise brings her extensive experience consulting with some of the world's largest tech and business companies, in addition to her personal experiences, productivity hacking, and lifestyle building techniques to help busy entrepreneurs grow their businesses faster.
And for those familiar with Ryan Deiss, the CEO of Digital Marketer, he has worked with Denise and said, and I quote, if you're a busy entrepreneur who wants to grow your business faster and take more time off, you should check out Denise's Vacation Effect program. We featured some of her innovative teachings on productivity hacking in our War Room member magazine, and I have implemented them in my own life and business, and I can tell you they flat out work. And them's big words because Ryan Deiss, he's got it going on. His company is killing it, and I'm sure he's a very busy person. And
yeah, to talk about busy.
Yeah, Denise touches on the fact that really it's all about choosing. And I'm big on this. Like, we all have the same 24 hours, and it's up to all of us to choose how are we going to use it. She's got some great tips.
And then how you're going to get it done. How you're going to get it done. And sometimes that might mean saying no to things and putting them on a shelf till you can come back to them. That's what I'm learning.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, we're going to jump into this episode with Denise Gosnell. And don't forget, a shout out to our sponsor, Dermavogue. You can check them out at dermavogue.com. As we always say, Dr. Jim Turek keeps Rachel and I looking prettier than we already are. So on to this episode. Welcome to Women Your Mother Warned You About, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Hopefully you've been warned about our show. So something that Rachel hasn't been part of this yet. I just did it once, but this is something new we're doing to break the ice. At the top of the show is asking you the following question. Do you consider yourself a woman your mother warned you about?
My mother was so quiet. I don't know if she warned me about other women, but if she had, I would say probably yes, because I say some unconventional things. So yes.
Awesome. It's so cool to ask people that question because everyone sort of has a different definition of what a woman your mother warned you about. So for you, it's saying unconventional things. We had someone once who went down a rabbit hole that we did not like. We were able to pull her back. We're like, oh no, that sounds so bad.
It had some witch cackling kind of going. There was witch cackling in her description.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like they're witches. Awesome. That was a great answer. Let's dive into your story because you have some significant things that happen, some little milestones and triggers in your personal life that brought you to a place of creating the vacation effect. So I thought it would be really cool, especially for women, to hear that story of how you got on your journey.
Yeah. So I started out in the corporate America world. I started out as a software developer and I worked for companies like EDS, now HP, and Microsoft as a programmer, as a software developer. And then I hit the proverbial glass ceiling of, I was making great money, but it was the highest you could earn, as a software developer. I hit six figures and I wanted to do more. I wanted to make a bigger impact in the world. So I went to law school and became a tech lawyer. And long story short, I broke through that glass ceiling and was making awesome money. But it turns out I had created my own worst nightmare. I became an entrepreneur 14 years ago on maternity leave after my daughter was born. I was at a large law firm making great money. But I was doing work that I hated. I did it for the money. And I'm embarrassed to say that, life can pass you by. You're doing it for the money and you're like not really happy, but you're just going through the motions. I had a big mortgage, and I still have overhead, but now I actually enjoy what I do. But there's a whole long journey of how I actually got there. But it was like, so there I was, like, it's almost like you're in a slow motion movie yourself of like, is this really my life? Like I was happy and I'm always a happy, bubbly person, but like there's that element of, is this right? There's just something off here. Like I'm not really happy at my core, even though I'm a happy person. So I want to distinguish between the two. Being a happy person is different than being truly fulfilled. Does that make sense? Totally. Where I'm coming from on that?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. So imagine me being this, this lawyer working 80 hours a week. And then one day, God always has a way of handing us obstacles and our greatest lessons in the form of an obstacle, doesn't he? I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that before.
Oh, yes.
Gina, have you?
I don't know.
Let me think. Yeah.
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens to all of us. Like we have these, life always has a way of handing us our greatest lessons in the form of an obstacle. And so for me, that happened back on June 20th, 2011, which is a day I will never forget as long as I live because it seemed like it was going to be the worst day of my life, turned into be the greatest day of my life, the greatest gift I was ever handed. So, imagine we were struck by lightning. This was my dream house that I was, working on all these hours to pay for, making a ton of money. The best of show, award-winning house that won the state competition of the best show in this Homerama. And it struck by lightning. There's a boom, a shake. And then my daughter, who was 5, her toys turned on by themselves. Welcome to Dora's Playhouse, from the energy passing through the room. Like that's when a lightning strike, I'm like, wow, who knew the energy could turn on a toy? Like that was just mind-boggling.
It just gave me goosebumps. I'm sorry.
That was right. Freaky. Yeah, like my husband and I both had goosebumps when it happened because like the energy I think made our hair stand up. But anyway, so like we're trying to figure out what the hell just happened. We knew we were struck by lightning because we saw the lightning bolt and we heard it hit the house. And there was a horrible storm at the time. What was interesting was about 5 minutes later, we were still walking around the house trying to figure out if we were damaged. Because, you don't know lightning. You hear these stories about lightning strikes. You don't know whether they actually damaged the house or not. So 5 minutes later or so, 10 minutes, however long it was, we hear this knock at the door. We're like, okay, what's that? So go to the front door and there's a fireman at my front door. And he's like, hey, your house is on fire. And we're like, okay, whoa. And he's like, so, and this was the life-changing question. What do you want us to retrieve in the next 5 minutes before your house is ruined by fire and water? What do you want us to retrieve? And so I already had, like, my office was right there. I already had my daughter was, we already had her. My husband ran up and got her, had my laptop and my purse. So it's like and the people were all okay. We didn't have pets at the time. So it's like, but then how I answered him, because I, had those things already that everybody would want to grab. It was just like so eye-opening. What do you think I said? When he's like, when in that moment, when there's no time to think about it, what do you want us to go retrieve in the next 5 minutes? I mean, is that not a powerful question?
Oh,
I'm like,
I would say photos. That's the only thing I would say. If I had my laptop and my phone and my child and my pets, I would, and my family, obviously, I would be like photos, and that's all I care about, because the rest is stuff.
Yeah. You know what? That is, Rachel, that is exactly the kind of stuff that I said, and here I was, I would have thought my previous version of myself would have thought I would have asked for my expensive jewelry or my artwork that I got, in Italy or whatever, all that stuff. But like you said, it's just stuff. How I answered was my wedding photos from 25 years ago, before there were digital cameras. They're all around the house and on the piano. My daughter's favorite toy. She was 5 at the time. Like, if she lost that stuffed animal at the time, that would have been devastating to our family. That was like a member of the family. Bunny, you got to get Bunny.
Yeah, that would be like Bunny. Lifelong psychological damage if Bunny died in the fire.
Yeah, if Bunny had not made it out, like, it would have just been like worse than it already was.
For sure.
My grandmother's blanket that she made me as a child, like, that is what I had them go retrieve. So then imagine, I was talking about this whole slow motion movie idea. Imagine standing next door at your neighbor's garage for 7 hours watching your house burn with the firemen putting it out. Like, it was literally like being in a slow motion movie. Like, we're standing there watching these 2 fire trucks putting out the fire. It's raining. Even the rain from from the sky wasn't putting the fire out, because it gets all in the insulation and in the walls and all that. And the house was ruined more by water than it was fire, because how that goes. They would pour water on it all day. Everything gets ruined.
Yeah.
So long story short, that day, as I was standing there in my own slow motion movie, I was like, how am I going to make this the best thing that ever happened to me? And so I started with, okay, I'm going to quit living my life doing work that I hate, but I'm going to find something that I actually enjoy that provides my family a good living. So I had to reconcile the two. I had to reconcile the fact that it's time to quit working for shit, working to pay for a bunch of stuff I don't even care about when it's burning. But at the same time, it's also okay to want a nice life for your family. They kind of seem to be at odds. Like, I was having this guilt problem around it. I don't know if, you guys have ever had that, the guilt of wanting nice things that creep up that you had to deal with, but reconciling the two, there's a lot of headspace. I needed therapy on that issue with myself.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
You had to have some level of PTSD after that.
Yeah. But so the therapy that I gave myself was just reconciling the fact that, it's okay that I like nice things, but it's not okay that I like nice things at the expense of doing things I hate and neglecting my family and neglecting myself. So that day, I vowed that I was going to figure out how to solve that seeming dichotomy. How can I make a good living while also have all the free time in the world? How can I do both?
So what did you do? How did you do both?
So for 5 of the 8 years after that, I stopped doing work I hated, but I was still working too much. I mean, I would spend more time with my family, but I did a better job of spending more time with my family, but I still hadn't figured out how to have all the free time that how to have more free time without sacrificing my income. I always felt like I was trading the two. So I went to this meditation retreat. This is really interesting. We were supposed to come with one question that we wanted answered. And my one question was, how can I have the schedule? I call it my Tuesday, Thursday schedule. How can I have the Tuesday, Thursday schedule I've always wanted, where I can have 2 days a week, 2 business days a week, where I can just wake up and say, what do I want to do today that will make me happy? Like, that had never even been on my radar before as a workaholic, but I'd always wanted that. That was like the proverbial dream, my perfect schedule, my Tuesday, Thursday schedule. So that was a question I took to the meditation retreat. What do you think happened during my meditation retreat?
You said, well, why the hell not? I've always wanted to do one of those. I so want to do one of those.
Yeah. So, we were out on this beautiful lawn, and, we were out in Boulder, Colorado, and like the grass is wet and moist. It was in like springtime, I think. And like, we're laying there for like an hour doing this meditation. Maybe it's half an hour, whatever. But so like during the meditation at some point, and I'm not a very good meditator. Like, I do it, but I never feel like I'm doing it right. But you know what? I got another great gift handed to me, because the answer that I received was, it was like I heard it whispered in my ear. It was like, what are you waiting for? All you have to do is decide, make today what you want tomorrow to be. That was what I heard. Make today what you want tomorrow to be. So I'm like, okay, here I am, still working my butt off, this workaholic. I'm making money doing work I actually enjoy instead of doing work I hate. And then I'm hearing this, make today what you want tomorrow to be. So to me, that means that my Tuesday, Thursday schedule, I'm like, well, this workaholic can't just make that my way of life for the rest of my life, but I can give myself permission, which I think is an important phrase we can come back to, give yourself permission. I gave myself permission to do an experiment, a 30-day experiment. So, I basically went back to the hotel that night, carved out Tuesdays and Thursdays for the rest of the month or for the next 30 days, 8 business days, right? That's like taking a week vacation. Like, surely I can give myself a week vacation this month and just figure out how to make it work. So that's what I did. And guess what happened? Any ideas?
No. Tell us.
Well, it was painful. It was painful at first. Like, to go from working 80 hours down to less than 40 in those next 4 weeks. It was painful in that I had to figure out what the hell I was doing wrong. I had to figure out where I was wasting time. I had to figure out where I should have been saying no and where I should have been delegating more.
Okay. You have to tell us some of those. What were you doing wrong and what should you have been delegating? Because I think this is a huge problem for a lot of people, especially women. And it's definitely something I'm struggling with right now.
Yeah. So it's one of those where first of all, I realized I was wasting a shit ton of time in my schedule. The biggest thing that I was doing that a lot of the clients I work with find that they're doing as well is that we're not in control of our calendar. Like, I was letting appointments happen all over the day. Like, I might have meetings at 9 a.m. I might have meetings at 2. I might have meetings at 4. And it's like, what the hell am I doing? Like, that's so inefficient with your time. Like, when are you supposed to get real meaningful thought work done? And when you're allowing your calendar to be scattered like that. So the first thing I had to do was I had to set meeting blocks on my Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And, now it's like my meetings are all batched, from like 1 to 4. And, we rescheduled this meeting. Thank you for allowing me to reschedule so I could support a friend with her opening her new company. But that's the only reason why I'm having this call with you at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Is because, I'm the one that asked you. So I wanted to accommodate, what you were doing. But so like I batch all my times, one like 3 hours per day on my 3 work days. It's the only time I have calls. Guess what? That means that, until 2:00 happens, I got all focus time where I can just be in thought mode and get stuff done. But does that make sense on that part of it? Like,
completely.
We may not realize how inefficient we're being, but we can waste our whole day. We could piss our whole day away without even realizing it.
Oh, amen. I do a lot of time blocking. Same with, the way we block out our calendar for podcasting. Like today is a meeting day. So I'm going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and that's meeting day. Mm-hmm. So I block out full days where I will not bend. I will say no to everybody that wants to like talk to me or meet with me, because I need prep days or strategy days or thoughtful days.
Exactly. And that's not always easy. So that was like 1/6 of what I had to do. And at the end of the 30 days, by the way, I loved it. So even though it was painful, I loved having those freedom days that I decided to do another 30-day experiment. 30 days, 60 turned into 90, and then I made it a way of life. And it's like, I can never go back. Like, now I have to adjust my schedule when I travel, but I always give those days back to myself. But a few other examples of what I had to do differently, if you'd like me to share those.
Yes.
Because a lot of people do the time blocking, but that was like the most glaring one for me. Other ones is I had to get a lot better at delegation. And, you hear that a lot, but a lot of us think we're doing it well, but like, I wasn't delegating enough. I was paying all these people to do work for me, but I was doing so much of it myself that they could have done. And part of that, I had to go back to my roots of what I'd learned at Microsoft and EDS, which was documenting my policies and procedures. Like, I really had to create what was in my head so that anybody on the team could do it. So I had to like systematize a lot of things, teach the team how to do it by having the right procedures. So that's a big one.
That's funny because back in my corporate days, that was something that I did all the time. I would document and create an SOP so people could take over. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I have not been able to do that in my own business. But I know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're taught that in corporate America. It's like, what do you think is standing in our way as entrepreneurs and executives of doing that?
Ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So, I also had to, get better at, the automation. I talked about the delegation. I did more with outsourcing. I improved the way I set goals. And most importantly of all, I had to become really, really productive at how I used my time in the 3 days I was working in the company. And, one of the things that I had to learn how to hack the hack. I had to learn how to, become a time hacker who hacks the hack. And that so that when I was working, I was getting as much done as possible. And what hit me, and this is where the name of my company, The Vacation Effect, comes from, is, Rachel, Gina, have you guys ever noticed how when you get ready to go on vacation, you get like a month's worth of work done in the 2 days before you go?
Totally.
Right? We've all had that happen to us, right? Well, it's like,
insane how much work I get done before I'm leaving.
Yeah. Well, so it's like, why is that? That's what started happening to me during those 3 days a week. I started realizing, man, I'm getting a lot of shit done in these 3 days. I'm getting as much done as I used to in my 80-hour, 6-day work week. And here I am getting it done in 3. And I'm like, what's going on here? I now call that forced hyper efficiency. That's like my key phrase, forced hyper efficiency. It's like the idea of you're under the gun like you are when you're about to go on vacation. So you magically force yourself to focus on only what matters, and you put blinders on and you ignore everything else. And so I literally had to learn how to do that every day of my life, that, every day that I was working. It's like it's like the Pareto principle. You learn how to focus on that 20% that's going to produce the 80% of the results instead of the 80% that's only going to give you 20% of the results. You just learn to start looking for that with every task.
Hey Warners, this is Gina Tremarco, and if you know Rachel and I, you know how much we love our beauty strategies, especially Dermavogue, where we both go to keep our faces looking younger and healthier. Every time someone says to me, something looks different about your face, I can't help but to tell them that the Dermavogue team, led by Dr. James Turk, has been offering the Greater Myrtle Beach area the best in cosmetic and aesthetic dermatology since 2003. Dermavogue combines expert medical knowledge with cutting-edge technology, bringing their patients the most effective, flawless solutions to any skincare or cosmetic need. Some of the services to consider include Botox, skin peels, facials, BioT, and much more. I personally love and highly recommend their Botox and lip injections for making my face look younger and healthier, and for BioT for improving my energy, sleep, and weight control. At Dermavogue, they gauge you in the process of total body health to ensure your satisfaction with their comprehensive selection of the most up-to-date, non-invasive cosmetic dermatology and spa treatments. If you want to look and feel your best, Dermavogue can help you get there. Schedule your consultation today by calling 843-357-2444 or visit dermavogue.com and tell them that the women your mother warned you about sent you.
There's a book that Gina gave away a couple of years ago to all of her coaching clients called A Beautiful Constraint. And I
love that book.
live this book right now. There's some things going on my schedule that it's caused a serious compression of my time. And the funny thing about that is every time that it happens to me, I get more productive because like you just said, Denise, I go, okay, anything that's not this, or this, anything that I don't have to absolutely show up for or has to get done, it's got to go to the side because I don't have time. And now I like to put in an hour or 2 hours of prospecting calls per day. And if I've got 8 full hours, then I'm going to do the same amount as, okay, I have from 9 to 11. That's all I've got today. Otherwise I don't get it done. And then you still fit it in.
Right. Magically, it's so true, Rachel. Like, don't you magically, you're like, man, I just did some of my best work thinking on my feet there and I got it done. And it was better than it probably would have been if I'd allowed myself 10 hours to do it.
Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine said to me the other day, she's like, I just wonder, how do you ever sleep? And I'm like, yeah, I sleep 6 hours. I figured out that I actually don't do well on 8. I do well on 6. So I know that this time to this time, I get 6 hours of sleep and then everything else is ruthlessly scheduled. And Gina and I, we're like, have a hard time getting our schedules together because we both are really good at scheduling. But when I am put under pressure, when I'm pressurized, I actually am more productive. And people think that it's really crazy, but I'm like, I operate really well under a pressure cooker.
I
plan out when I'm going to vacation and do my thing, and decompress. It's limited.
And Rachel and I are the same in that. And I think it's a personality thing too, because some people are not good with that. And people do look at us like, you guys do so much. How do you do that? I have found that if I don't have a lot going on, I'm actually less efficient because I'll because I will drag.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, well, there's no deadline.
Yeah. And you're like,
Well, and most people are like that, whether they want to admit it or not. If there's no deadline, like you always say that expression, give it to the busiest person because it'll get done. And that's so true, whether we want to admit it or not, even if we're not the kind of person who works well under pressure, there's something to be said for if even that person has too much time to do it, it still would have been better to give them a deadline.
yeah,
Like, I think human nature
I love a good deadline.
So so this whole like reduced schedule, whatever each person's version of it might be, I believe each human being has their own version of their own hyper efficient sweet spot. For me, it happens to be cramming all my work into 3 days per week, business days per week, where I can have the other 2 to just be an entrepreneur and do what I want to do that makes me happy. And it doesn't mean that on those other 2 days that I'm not creating new companies or doing something. It's like whatever makes me happy. Like when I wake up and say, what will light my fire today? That's what I do. I never have a predetermined notion of what that's got to be. But those other 3 days, man, they're intense. Like I'm working, 12-hour days on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but I wouldn't trade it for anything because I went from 80 down to less than 40. And I'm having fun because I fit time for everything. Now I've got my me time. I magically get my client work done and for across my 3 companies in those other 3 days. But I also have an emergency buffer on those other 2 days where something truly urgent comes up. I've got a spot for it. But
I think you really hit it on the head with the me time. One of the things that I've noticed lately is that I cannot work around the clock and I cannot work 7 days a week. And I have a tendency to do that and not give myself a break. And I end up being sloppier because I have to be able to take a break and just walk away from thinking about anything.
Yeah,
to refresh.
Absolutely. And can we actually, Gina, what you just said there is like one of the key things that I would love to touch on if we can. And that is that we have been brainwashed in the North American business culture into thinking that it's got to be the rise and grind. You got to grind all the time, or you're somehow lazy, or you're somehow worthless, or you're not making a difference in the world. We have leaders that I admire for what they have done, but I don't agree with their position on this. Like you have like Elon Musk, who tweeted back in November of last year, no one ever changed the world on 40 hours a week. You have Gary Vee, who's famous for the hustle. You have Steve Jobs, who died from, workaholism and having no meaningful relationships in his life. And on his deathbed, he wrote that letter telling all about it, that was one thing he regretted. And it's like these guys, like they set this standard of thinking that you have to work 80 hours a week or you're not doing meaningful work. And they've done great things. I'm not taking that away from them, and I admire them for their accomplishments. But I think we've developed this culture of workaholism. It's like workaholism is now the respected addiction. If you don't take the vacation time that you're entitled to, somehow you're a more superior entrepreneur or professional. And I think that's bullshit. This is where I'm the unconventional, not the woman my mother, would have warned me.
Bring it, Denise.
It's like, no, I am here to say that you can actually make more money by working less and you can make a difference in the world. The year of my experiment, I grossed and netted the most fucking money of my life when I'd worked 40% less. And I would have never believed it if you had told me that.
Wow.
So
we got her going.
I know, right? Like that guilt thing, like the working hard and feeling guilty, like that is like I'm on a mission to say, look, if I can show you, or if you can learn it on your own, how to get as much done in 3 days as you used to in 6, is there anything to feel guilty about? Absolutely not. Well, why is it that we do? Like, why should we feel guilty taking, a Thursday to go do whatever heck makes us happy and feel guilty about telling the client that wants to chat, sorry, I'm not available today. How about tomorrow? Or yes, how does tomorrow work for you? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and to play a devil's advocate on it a little bit, this applies to gals like us that will work ourselves into detonation. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times people like, you know what I'm saying? Because we will, obviously.
Because we have, that's why.
Because the people, I know, all the time, at least once a quarter usually. But there's the people out there that I think that a lot of those hustle and grind things that some of those big leaders try to do, I think sometimes it's for those folks out there that are fucking lazy, that are like, it's not fair. I don't have it. I just can't get a job. Like, because that's bullshit.
Right.
And in order to get where you have gotten, Denise, I mean, you were just talking about walking away from 7 figures. Now, keep in mind some of those people out there that are making like $12,000 a year and wishing that they had more. Well, those people might need to step it up. And
Right.
I think that's where that grind kind of mentality is hoping to inspire those people that, yes, it's going to get uncomfortable. You might have to give up watching the Simpsons reruns, and get to fucking work if you'd like to be able to walk away from seven figures. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a difference. There's people out there that the ones that would love to only work 3 days a week and suddenly have seven figures, like they aren't there yet anyways.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and Rachel, that's a great point. And it's like, and of course, I'm not saying that there aren't times to work hard. Like I still work really hard in my 40 hours a week. But what I'm spending my time on is it matters.
Yeah.
It's that 20% that produces 80% of the results. And that's the difference. I used to spend 80% or 80 hours a week, but it was on all the wrong things.
Yeah.
So, and I am a 7-figure entrepreneur again. I went through a rebuilding period where, I literally quit the work I was doing that scared the hell out of me to quit the work I was doing that was paying me a shit ton of money. I resigned and had to build myself from scratch again. And I built myself back up, but it was scary getting there. But yes, you do have to work hard. There's a difference between being a hard worker, and thank you for making this distinction. There's a difference between being a hard worker and doing the right things. And I'm on a mission to say, look, you can make a difference in 40 hours a week if you spend your time the right way. And there's also, you'll burn out if you spend 80 hours a week doing the wrong things and don't make time for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really comes down to being intentional. That's that keeps popping up in my head. It's intentional planning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very.
And also not letting, this is an important one that somebody brought up the other day. And I said to her, been there, done that, of being that person that is the people pleaser, that someone shows up with an emergency and it has to get done right now. And being able to say, okay, I will be sure to get you the answer that you need by 10 a.m. tomorrow. Because actually, unless someone's like bleeding to death, you can usually get the answer by 10 a.m. tomorrow if it's an emergency.
That's my philosophy in customer service training. Tell the customer what you can do for them, not what you can't do for them, so that you can really drive that. And the other phrase I like with that, Rachel, is your lack of planning is not my emergency.
Because you know the one, Denise, and that's where I think it's really great what you mentioned about saying these are my times that I'll do meetings and do all this. And I was going to ask you on those two Tuesdays and Thursdays, is there a time slot in case something comes up that has to be addressed? Yeah. And I think it's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. I know it was for me, and now I'm getting better at it to understand what Gina just said. There's always going to be some kind of emergency in someone else's eyes.
Right.
But to be able to differentiate for us, like, what's my priority right now? And when can I get to this? Or can I not get to it?
Yeah. And Rachel, that's a really important point. And that was one of the magical pieces that I had to put into my schedule in order to make it work. And it's what I call my emergency buffer. So on my Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have an emergency buffer from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. And if I'm traveling, I'll adjust the time. But it's basically the spot where I get to determine, not the client, I get to determine whether I feel what they're asking for is an emergency, to where I'm willing to offer that spot to them. And if I do, I give it back to myself later by, and it only happens like once a month that I'm even using my emergency buffer time, because 9 times out of 10, what they're asking for is not truly an emergency. I just direct them to tomorrow or Friday. Like if it were a Tuesday, they were asking, I'll say, I'm not available today, but how does Wednesday or Friday look for you? And notice I'm not offering Tuesday or Thursday as an option. I don't owe them an explanation of what other meetings I'm in. I'm in a meeting with myself. That's none of their damn business, And it's like,
That's awesome.
And if they come back and they're like, this is truly an emergency, we're about to walk in the room in 2 hours with Sir Richard Branson, and we need to know if this agreement's okay to sign, or whatever. Like if it's something that's truly time sensitive, then I will determine, okay, well, how about I look at it at 2 o'clock today or 3 o'clock today during my emergency buffer time. I don't say those words to them, but it's
right.
Well, how does 3 o'clock work for you? Great. My meeting's at 5. Perfect. Guess what? I just took back my own time. And then I set the fact that it was an emergency. They didn't.
Yeah. Along those lines, you inferred this earlier about, blocking that time. And you mentioned travel. I travel a lot, and I find that to be my most challenging scenario, because from a travel perspective, anywhere I go, it's 2 days of travel. So right there, 2 days is knocked off my calendar. And that's if I travel once a month. Add it twice a month, now it's 4 days of travel, right? That are just automatically wasted, that I try to do things in between flights, which, that's just I pretend it's going to work, but it doesn't. Then you're on the road. Then you're doing client work. I try to build in time to do business development and to go out and make sales calls. I'll spend time just booking sales calls for that trip, but I get nothing else done.
Mhm.
And I've lost a good full week.
Yep. And that's one of those where it's all work days. And that's why I have to adjust my Freedom Day schedule when I'm traveling. So what I do with my own travel schedule is like, I've been traveling like a maniac lately. I had a couple friends pass away unexpectedly. I helped my aunt with an emergency situation. Then I also had business travel that was already on the books. I've only been home like one of the last 5-6 weeks, but like 3 of those 5 weeks were like, I consider them vacation time. I went to 2 friends' funerals and I helped my aunt. Like I wasn't working as much. Like, so to me, those were actual freedom days because most of the time that I was there, I was present with those people. And then, so what I was then doing is I was spending like 1 day a week where I was working like 16 hours and getting everything done for the whole week. But then I was fully present in those situations. And so I adjust my schedule as I need to. But my normal, when it's not so chaotic, my normal, like I travel 4 days a month and I'm home the other 3. When I'm home, I give myself the Tuesday, Thursday schedule. And when I travel, I find a way to make it have at least 1 to 2 days of freedom days, what I call my freedom days while I'm traveling. Even if that means adding an extra day in that city where I get to have fun in that city.
I've done that.
Yeah, it's like, why do we spend all this money to go to all these beautiful places? And like, I can't tell you, I've flown almost 1 million miles, over my lifetime in 58, 60 countries. And it's like, can't tell you how many cities I've gone to. I went there for the meetings and I flew home. I'm like, I spent all this money to come here. Why the heck am I not adding an extra day and like seeing the city and enjoying what I'm paying for? Yeah. So now I make that a point. So that I work in my freedom day to the trip as well. So
okay, so I'm gonna start doing that more then.
Yeah, I encourage you to do that more. And then consider whether when you're back at your office, and maybe people don't want to jump into if you control your own schedule, maybe you don't want to jump into 2 days a week and try that like I do. But I would encourage everyone. In my program, I help my entrepreneur clients through a 30-day experiment of their own, where I have them do the 2 days freedom days for 30 days. I'm like, you know what? This is just meant, even though you just do this little test for 30 days, it will help you figure out where you're wasting time. It will help the inefficiencies rise to the top. It will help you say no more. It'll help you learn to focus on what really matters. And then you can decide whether you want to continue it, drop to 4 days, where you work 4 days during the week and have 1 freedom day for yourself. Or I helped, each of the clients have their own version of what worked for them. But it's amazing. They all loved the 30-day experiment to learn where their inefficiencies were. Does that make sense?
That's so cool.
Yeah, develop an experimenter attitude. Now I experiment my way to everything. Experiment my way to awesome.
I like that.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. Experiment your way to awesome.
It always comes down to, I think it's a lie that people tell themselves and other people that I just don't have time. I'm so busy. It's a lie because it always circles back around to somebody like Richard Branson that has the same 24 hours in the day that all of us have. It's just the choice of how you're going to spend your time. And what you're basically telling us, Denise, is you can also choose to spend the time the way you want. But just make sure you're focusing on all the ways that you're spending your time. And I think people all the time just are like, I don't even know what happened to today. It just blew by. Like, if you want to take control of your time and do the things you want to do with your life, then you've got to really drill down on how are you really spending your time? Like, what choices are you making? Is it directly getting you where you want to be? And if you want to be more relaxed, are you putting that in your schedule? If you want to be more fit, are you putting that in your schedule?
Exactly. And I'm so glad you mentioned this, Rachel, because this is one of the key points that I always love to make sure people really get is that freedom is a mindset. It is not a destination that you get to someday. Someday when I have more time or I have more money, I'm going to have freedom. Freedom is a decision. You choose right here, right now, to have freedom. You choose to put things into your schedule for me time. You choose to fit it in if it really matters to you. You choose to be productive or piss your time away. It's all a choice. So freedom is a mindset. It's not a destination. I decided to step in after that meditation retreat to bring it back full circle. I decided I was always going to make today what I wanted tomorrow to be by literally giving time for myself and time for my clients. And if that's not good enough, you know what? If I lose some clients over this, I'll be okay. I haven't, but if I do, I'll be okay. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to I'm tired of like living my life based upon the impressions and judgments of others. It's like, I choose freedom. I choose to wake up and know that I got room in my calendar this week for anything that makes me happy. And I can decide spur of the moment to fit it in. I've got a spot for it. And that's joyful. Every week of your life should feel like a vacation. That's actually the double meaning of my company, The Vacation Effect. You know how I talked about that analogy of when you're super productive right before you go on vacation, when you get a month's worth of work done in the 2 days before you go? Well, that's what I was talking about with forced hyper efficiency. That's one meaning of the vacation effect, forced hyper efficiency. The other meaning is that every week of your life should have so much joy that your life feels like a perpetual vacation. So that's the double meaning of the vacation effect. Like, why do we not have so much joy every single week? That no week of our life should feel like a drag. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, there's shit happens in life. We lose loved ones, and, you know, like you have house fires and stuff like that. But I mean, those are like pivotal life-changing moments. But when I'm talking just every normal weeks of your life, they should feel like a vacation. They should have joy. The things you normally save for vacation should be on your calendar every single week. And that's what I do now, and it changed my life.
Well, and I think it's another, I like to drip this over into the financial world too, because I was thinking of vacation because right now I'm in a really busy time. I should not use the word busy because I kind of hate that word. I'm in a time where a period of life where my time is very compressed. And the way that I justify it to myself is that I'm planning my vacations. Like, that's where my money goes. And people ask me a lot, how do you go on so many trips? And I say, well, because I don't like to shop and I don't spend my money that's where my money goes. When I come to money, I think ahead of, like, I love to plan trips and I love to send my money there, because that way I know that it's going somewhere. Because otherwise we whittle our time away. We whittle our money away on God knows what, and Starbucks and shoes and this and that and the other, when it could be going to something that we really hold valuable. Same with time, for sure.
And you know what, Rachel, that there's such a return on that investment on top of it. It's like a double whammy, because vacation time gives you time to, you know, kind of get your energy back and refill your bucket, and it gives you time with your family. Yep. So that combination is going to return to you more than a pair of shoes.
Stuff that could burn up in a fire, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're going to have to start wrapping up, but I have a couple more questions for you, and then Rachel's going to ask you. She's going to start with our some of our signature questions.
All right.
You run 3 companies. So what are the 3 different things you're doing?
Yeah, so I have the Vacation Effect, the coaching and training company, you know, helping the entrepreneurs learn how to grow their business faster by working less. I have a law firm where I am intellectual property, internet, and general counsel to a lot of industry experts and other companies. And then I have a real estate company with my husband where we own and manage a significant real estate portfolio in Indiana.
Okay, everybody hear that? Because she's doing all of that under 40 hours a week. And you work with entrepreneurs. You have some strategies around growth hacking. What would be like the first thing someone could do to get some tips around that? I think you have a cheat sheet of some kind that people can get.
Yeah, on my website at vacationeffect.com, that's vacation effect with an EFFECT. .com. I have a growth hacking cheat sheet that kind of summarizes a lot of the things we've been talking about today about forced hyper efficiency and the Pareto principle, and, you know, gives people some tips on how to get started with the forced hyper efficiency. And, you know, I also have some other things that they can learn more about on the website. You know, how I help clients. But yeah, that's a great place for them to start with some of these kinds of principles. But, you know, like starting with some of these forced hyper efficiency principles and experimenting with them is what I always encourage people to do. And, you know, really be mindful of where you're spending your time and where you're saying yes when you should be saying no, and owning your own freedom, you know, choosing to have freedom instead of letting other people dictate everything to you. You
know, we have quite a few listeners that are not entrepreneurs and they're working professionals. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that these techniques and the work that you do, somebody who's not an entrepreneur could actually take these and apply them and start generating more money as salespeople or become more productive. Yeah, they can be adapted. You know, I work mostly with entrepreneurs, but the principles can be adapted whether you're an entrepreneur or not. Like, for example, if you work for someone else, like if you're a rock star employee,
then why not negotiate a 4-day work week where you get a full-time salary, but you only have to work 4 10-hour days or 38 hours a week or whatever. You're a rock star. If you bring the value, you deserve to negotiate what you want. I have friends who have done that. I did that when I was in law school. You can totally do these kinds of things even when you're an employee.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. It's different parameters, but you can still get the essence of it.
Right.
Yeah. If you're working a 38-hour week, why not negotiate with your boss? Hey, what if I did it all 38 hours in 3 days a week and took the other 2 days off?
Yeah. And if you bring the value and you get as much done in 3 as everybody else does in 5, they're not going to tell you no.
That's right.
They're crazy. Go somewhere that won't tell you no.
So, hey, Warners, you hear that. For those of you who are working for the man or the woman and you're not entrepreneurs yet, go try that. And then don't tell your boss we told you to do it.
Yeah, be awesome first, though. Be irreplaceable.
Exactly.
If you're irreplaceable. You can demand what you want and get it.
I think you have to also set the stage for like proving yourself first on that, and then going, hey, look at what I've done.
Ask them to let you do an experiment. I had an idea here. They could do an experiment. I say, give me a 30-day experiment. I will prove to you that I can get as much done in 3 as I used to at 5. And if not, I will go back to the old way, or I'll do, whatever X is.
Yeah.
Make a deal with them that they can't refuse, but that if you prove them wrong, that they'll let you continue.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. It's like that experiment your way to awesome.
I love that.
Give them something they could say yes to.
So many great nuggets. Okay. We have a couple questions for you. They're kind of like quick, rapid, put you on the spot. Rachel, you ready?
Since this is the podcast that makes everything sexy again, how do you define the word sexy?
Well, what comes to my mind, sexy is somebody who owns who they are and portrays it magnetically. It doesn't have to be beauty. It's somebody radiating the essence of the beauty of who they are. It doesn't have to do with how beautiful you are, or it's just sexy is owning who you are. To me, that's sexy.
Awesome. Love it.
What is the best advice you've been given by another woman or man?
If you can't be a blessing where you're going, stay home. I learned that from a lady in a conference I went to. I love that quote. If you can't be a blessing where you're going, stay home.
Oh,
isn't that great?
Good.
Awesome.
That was a huge truth bomb there.
Yeah.
Any advice that you wish you had been given?
If you can't be a blessing where you're going, stay home. There are times when there are times when I regret having gone somewhere and like not had that blessing thing in my mindset. Like, why did I just chew out the lady at the front desk at such and such because she pissed me off? Like, I even tell my daughter now, I could have handled that better. Yeah, Mom, you could have. Be willing to admit when you make a mistake and talk about it openly with your children.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think, that actually admitting failure and encouraging your children to fail. Like I learned that from Sarah Blakely about how the founder of Spanx, the billionaire entrepreneur, of how important it is to teach your children that failure is just more data that gets you one step closer to the outcome you're looking for. So now I ask my daughter, what did you fail at today? And I congratulate her for having tried. That's what Sarah Blakely's dad had taught her.
Oh, that's nice. Are you friends with Sarah?
I met her at a private event that one of my mastermind groups, we were hosting an event at her place. So we got to meet her. So no.
Rachel knows what I'm doing. I'm like,
okay.
Oh, we would love to have Sarah on the show.
I know, right? I am not, but I know people.
Okay, good. Good. We might have to tap you for that.
I know, right?
It has been so awesome having you on today. You have so many truth bombs and nuggets, and I wrote a lot of things down. I think this is just really valuable content. So thank you, Denise, for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Awesome. And once again, if people want to connect with you, we put this in our show notes. People like to hear it as well. Where are the best places, if you want to share that one more time, for people to find you?
Yeah, they can go to vacationeffect.com. And that's vacationeffect.com. And then on the website, it also has all my social media links and the free resource, the Growth Hacking Cheat Sheet. And then on the thank you page of the Growth Hacking Cheat Sheet, they can also learn more about some free sessions that I offer to help people kind of create their own, time hacking and other things they can do. So awesome. Happy to connect. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. All right, Warners, it's time to wrap up this show. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Women Your Mother Warned You About. And thank you to our sponsor, Dermavogue, that makes Rachel and I prettier than we already are, keeping our skin and our faces looking youthful. Dermavogue, check them out. And to connect with me directly or learn more about Pivot 10 results in Carolina Improv, you can find me on our website at womenyourmotherwarnsyouabout.com or ginatramarco.com.
And to connect with me, Rachel Pitts, you can find me all over social media as Rachel on Real Estate, and find all of our social media links and free downloads on our website at womenyourmotherwarnsyouabout.com.
And of course, you can find Keith Walters on that same website. So we got to give him a shout out. And if you have not had a chance to give us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, please take the time to do that. We really appreciate it. And remember, for the best relationships, keep it real, raw, and relevant.
And a little irreverence doesn't hurt either.
Bye, Warners.
This really will get serious soon.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. I don't think anybody wants it to be serious.
This has been a presentation of the Sell or Die Network. For more podcasts that you can take out into the street and turn into money, visit sellerdienetwork.com.